When looking at risk assessment in general, those three phases, identification, analysis, evaluation, we should always keep front and center certain considerations. We need to think about the objectives. We need to tie our risk assessment techniques to the objectives of the assessment. We need to consider the decision makers. What information and judgments do they need to make that we can help inform? The type of risk matters. We should tailor the risk assessment technique to the type of risk. The magnitude is important. The potential magnitude of the consequences can drive the technique selection. High consequence risks need careful analysis to determine the exact scope of the consequences and also to determine the likelihood, because even small changes in likelihood can dramatically affect the overall rating for the organization. We should look at the availability of data. How much data do we have about operations, technology, people, products and services, competitors, as well as external data that might influence how we look at a certain risk? Whether we have relevant expertise to answer some of these questions. In the case of technology or cybersecurity risk, the legal team may or may not have the technical expertise to even ask detailed questions of the information technology professionals. It could be that the information technology professionals are not available in the organization, that the people closest to the work are contracted out and maybe aren't available to provide the kinds of detailed answers that we need in our legal risk assessment of those cybersecurity issues, just as an example. We need to consider the ability to get updates and have changes in the organization or the overall context or the data that's informing our risk assessment get folded back into our risk analysis so that we update those ratings not only through the phases, through identification, analysis, and evaluation, but that we return to them even when we're completed and changing them if necessary and then acting accordingly. And then we need to think about the requirements that might influence our process. Some organizations have contractual or regulatory requirements that can lead you to certain techniques or certain processes that you may be required depending on your national or subnational jurisdiction or industry that you're competing in. When we look at those techniques, we need to think about tying them to the risk criteria, their fit in the organization, and make sure that those techniques are repeatable. So we want a small handful of techniques that we are experienced at using and that produce consistent results.